For centuries, bridges have helped us cross geological features, such as rivers, canyons, or rugged terrain. And in modern times, we've seen them integrated into cities and their infrastructure networks with an almost endless array of uses. From humble beginnings, these structures have grown into some of the greatest engineering achievements in human history. Here, we look at the longest bridges in the world. To develop this list, we've looked at the longest bridges in each of the 5 main bridge categories and used continuous span to define their length. As a result, elevated highways or causeways with irregular supports along their length are not included. First up is the Kisuke Bridge, a truss structure built in the Nagasaki prefecture of Japan that links the island of Kisuke to its larger neighbour, Hirado. Constructed in 1991, the 400-metre or 1,312-foot steel span bridge supports itself through a system of interconnected steel beams that form the triangular trusses of its superstructure. These elements carry either compressive or tensile stresses, with the counteracting actions on each individual member allowing the bridge to distribute weight evenly when carrying dynamic loads such as vehicle traffic. Being one of the earliest forms of modern bridges, truss designs are often incorporated into other bridges due to the considerable loads they can carry for the material that they use. Next, we have the Pont de Quebec or Quebec Bridge in Canada. This steel structure takes the title of longest cantilever bridge in the world with its impressive 549-metre or 1,801-foot main span. Completed in 1917, the bridge was dogged with misfortune throughout its construction, collapsing not once but twice before it was open to the public. The first collapse was the result of improper calculations relating to the bridge's weight and overall load-bearing capacity. In 1907, 4 years after construction began, the southern and central spans collapsed into the St. Lawrence River, killing 75 workers. After going through a redesign, a second iteration of the bridge was commissioned and began construction in 1913, with an even longer central span than its predecessor. This time, the bridge was overseen by 3 engineers, including an expert who had worked on Scotland's 4th bridge. However, these precautions did not stop the bridge from experiencing its second disaster. In 1916, the hydraulic mechanism hoisting the central span into position failed, and the bridge fell into the river below, taking a further 13 workers with it. To this day, the collapsed section still lies at the bottom of the St. Lawrence River. When the bridge was finally completed in 1917, after almost 2 decades of construction, it took the prestigious title of World's Longest Bridge. Despite losing that title in the decades that followed, the Quebec Bridge remains to this day the longest cantilever bridge in the world. Arch bridges are one of the oldest types of bridge and come in a wide variety of forms, from the early stone arches used by the Greeks and Romans to the steel giants of today. The longest of these, with a central span of 552 metres or 1,811 feet, is the Quixote Harmon Bridge in China. Built in 2009, the road and rail bridge stands 142 metres above the Yangtze River, with a total length of 1,741 metres or 5,712 feet. Despite varying greatly in appearance, arch bridges are all based on the same engineering principle of distributing loads from the centre of the structure outward into abutments at either end. This can be done through foundations or pylons, like with the Sydney Harbour Bridge, or with earth, as is the case with the Mike O'Callaghan Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge in the United States. With a main span of 1,104 metres or 3,622 feet, the Russky Bridge in Vladivostok was built to connect Russky Island to the Russian mainland ahead of the 2012 APEC summit. With its total length exceeding 3,100 metres or 10,200 foot, the Russky Bridge needed some of the tallest pylons of any bridge in the world in order to carry its remarkably long road decks. Reaching 321 metres or 1,053 feet into the air, the bridge's two massive pylons are taller than New York's Chrysler Building. From these towers, 168 cables, some as long as 580 metres, reach out to support the four-lane roadway below. Controversially, the bridge was built at an estimated cost of $1.1 billion, with a capacity to carry 50,000 cars every day. However, with the population of Russky Island at just over 5,000 people, the bridge is severely underutilised and considered by many Russians to be a white elephant. All of the world's longest bridges use the suspension principle, and the longest of these is a true titan of engineering. With a central span of almost 2 kilometers, the 1,991-meter Akashi Kaiko Bridge in Kobe, Japan, is the longest bridge in the world. Built over the course of a decade between 1988 and 1998, the bridge was developed to address a range of issues. The Akashi Strait is a major shipping lane that is notorious for severe storms, so any fixed crossing had to avoid large numbers of supports across the channel. On top of this, the bridge lies in one of the world's most seismically active zones, the Pacific Ring of Fire. To overcome these challenges, engineers developed a structure that was able to span the vast distance whilst being able to bend and flex without suffering serious structural damage. The roadway is hung from vertical suspension cables attached to the main cables strung between the bridge's two supporting towers. These cables are anchored into bedrock at each end of the structure. Originally designed with a main span of 1,990 metres, the city of Kobe experienced a 7.2 magnitude earthquake in January 1995 while the bridge was still under construction. The resulting ground shift pushed the bridge's two supporting towers apart, resulting in an additional metre or 3 feet of roadway being added to the structure to complete the deck. A dual-hinged stiffening girder system and tuned mass dampers in each of the two support towers of the bridge mean it can withstand 286 km/h winds and earthquakes measuring as high as 8.5 on the Richter scale. Built at a cost of $3.6 billion, the Akashi Kaiko Bridge remains one of the most expensive bridges ever constructed. Of course, we couldn't end this video without recognising some of the former record holders and most famous bridges from around the world. Stretching 1,280 metres or 4,200 feet, the Golden Gate Bridge in the United States was the world's longest between 1937 and 1964. Sydney Harbour Bridge in Australia was the world's widest between 1932 and 2012, with a width of 48.8 metres or 169 feet. And the Mallao Viaduct in France remains the world's tallest bridge to this day, with pylons standing 343 metres above the ground. If you enjoyed this video and would like to get more from the definitive video channel for construction, subscribe to the B1M.